used rabbit stock to make this delicious soup. First, I boiled and cooked the carcasses in water. For a cleaner taste in the stock, you should skim off this foam off the top that presents fairly early. After doing this and boiling the meat for about 90 minutes, it was ready for removal and shredding, and so I did that. I took the meat off of the carcasses, and after doing so, I put any waste, any bones, any fat right into the broth. I did have 2 pots, but I was able to consolidate, and I had to boil that with some aromatic vegetables for around a few hours. I also added a little bit of vinegar because I heard it could help bring out the value from the marrow and the bones. So it was smelling great, and I put it in the fridge. This is me the next day starting on today's meal. So I don't have enough of these, but I chopped up some carrots, celery, and I did even do some onion because I didn't really have enough veggies to go around for this soup like we normally do. And I've chopped all of this up, prepped it, and then this gets added to the pot with hot oil and garlic and fried until the veggies are quite soft. So this is me adding the oil. I do this early on, and I continue stirring and checking this as it slowly cooks while I do other things. So this is me starting the rice. I like to rinse it off a little bit, and normally I prefer whole wild rice, but this is just what we had. And I put this in the Instant Pot so that we could get it ready. The amount of time I did on this was too long for this blend, but would have been great for just straight up wild rice. While that was cooking, I started cutting up the meat, and my knife was getting really dull at this point. Normally, I like to brine the meat before I use it in this soup, but I wasn't able to, so I just heavily seasoned it, and I cut it small. Like I normally would just cook the whole piece and then cut it, but I cut it small to ensure that the seasoning really got through the whole thing. And you need to season meat several times. I seasoned it twice to start and then another time during the cooking process later on. This was about 3 breasts, and this is going to yield a large pot. I'm starting to cook it on the stove with those spices, and now I'm checking also on these veggies and watching them as they cook. At this point, they are still not close to being done. They should be fairly soft, and they're just not there yet. At this point, I could take a little breather. I had everything going, and I just needed to wait now for everything to be ready. Here's the next round of seasoning. Of course, you can never really put too much seasoning on meat. And now the veggies are ready, and it's time to add this broth. I was not expecting this consistency. I was actually shocked. But after looking it up, apparently this is a very good sign that the broth is high quality and has stock in it. So the vinegar must have done its job and pulled a lot of value from the bones. Now I'm adding the meat, and I'm creating the roux. So with the roux, I just do a stick of butter and a half cup of flour and carefully whisk that all together. You're supposed to stir it, whisk it pretty much constantly while you're making it. And you want it to be smooth and bubbly before you add it. I didn't really do everything in the usual order that I do, but it still turned out great. Here's the roux developing, and it's just about ready to go in. And the job of a roux is to help thicken a soup. So it's going to add some body to the soup. Now I'm adding that roux, and I'm also adding some heavy whipping cream, which adds that white color to the broth and makes it a cream soup. At this point, you want to be careful to not let it boil. It should only be simmering. Boiling can change the texture of dairy products. So I'm letting this simmer, and my 15 minutes of natural release on the Instant Pot are now up, and it's time to take out this rice. Now, like I said, for this mix, this was way too long. 25 cook time, 15 natural release. I would probably do that with wild rice, but not with this blend. Anyways, I released the air. Please be careful with these things. They're very hot, very steamy, and I added that rice to the soup, even though it was a bit mushy. Now it's time to taste test and see how things were going seasoning-wise, and I was actually really amazed by the flavor of this. The flavor of the broth is just so broad and dynamic. So now I'm just letting it simmer more because I want it to be thicker. So as time goes on, the consistency is slowly getting to more so where I'd want it. Typically, we like our soup to be more filled with all these ingredients, but that's okay. I taste tested it, and it was so delicious. It's honestly more like a soup than we normally make soups. We usually make them very stew-like, but this was so good. It was it was just a great consistency. Even though it was thinner, it had that full-bodied broth that really just, I don't know, it was next level. I will definitely be making broth like this again. My daughter has eaten like 3 bowls of this, and she keeps asking for more soup. I think she might be getting full now.
Mama. She loves to eat this.
That's a win. So I've made this soup many times. Now, the difference is it didn't get quite as thick as it would normally, but it still has a great consistency. And then the other thing of it is it's got such a rich flavor. It's very rich stock, you know, and so it's so...
my soup I ate.
It's just rich. It's a rich flavor. And yeah, it's honestly my favorite yet.